I might not know what he calls me to, but he, right? And so I remember as a little kid hearing that song, I thought, wow, life is amazing because God calls us. God invites us to partake in his life. And then, as most of you, I imagine, I left my home country when I was 10, and we immigrated with my family to Canada. And at that point, I started going to a new school, change of life, new life. And at that point in time, for me, it was clear that it was the first time that I found out that there were other religions in the world. Because when I was growing up in Colombia, like the Philippines is mostly a Catholic country, and so when I went to Canada, I was like, wait, there's people who don't know who God is? They don't know who Jesus is? And I remember being with my classmates who were from India. I also had Taiwanese classmates, and so this thing. I mean, I probably wasn't thinking in these terms, but I was aware. Why did God bring me here? What does He want from me? I was 10, but these questions, they weren't. It's not like I thought about it every day, but once in a while, when I'd go up into the beautiful mountains and see a beautiful sunset or look out into the sea, I would think, wow, God is really great. What does He want? Why is He giving me this stuff? And then my parents wanted me to go to a Catholic school, right? My parents, I mean, there's many things I could say, so I won't be long, but I think if it weren't for them, I definitely wouldn't have the faith. But my parents weren't particularly devout. We went to Mass every Sunday, but it's not like they would talk about God at home, right? Only when I was a kid we'd say prayers, but at a certain point they just kind of like let us be, and we continued going to Mass together. But they always made sure that they wanted the best for us, to be educated with the faith. So my parents wanted me to go to a Catholic high school. And when I started going to this Catholic high, when I went to see this new high school, there was I went for a weekend. I might have shared this story with some of you. I got to this high school, right? It was actually a boarding school, and so I got there at nighttime, and everybody was already asleep. So we tried to find a sense of life. So we knocked on a window, and a priest came. I was about 12 by then. And the priest opened the window and he said, well, it's late, the doors are closed, why don't you just jump in through the window? So I just came in, I jumped in and said goodbye to my parents. And then when he closed the window, he said, welcome, when you become a priest, you can say that you entered the seminary through the window. I was like, what? Because I just want to come to school, right? Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about seminary, right? And I kind of like froze. I was like, what is this? Anyways, that place actually, that boarding school was actually a seminary. My parents didn't know. They just heard it was a school. They heard there was an open weekend. They sent me. Anyways, the weekend impressed me for a very simple reason. Nothing dramatic happened. But I saw how these monks lived, right? They'd get up early, have Mass, they worked the fields, they pray again, right? And I thought, wow, these men live for God. I mean, I was 12 years old, but I recognized that these men live for God, right? And I was like, this is too much. This is too much. I don't want to be here. I want to go back home. And so my parents came. I said, never. I'm never going to come here. My mom said, don't worry. You don't have to come here if you don't want to. But as we were leaving, it's as if this simple thought, right, these men are living for God, became a question in my heart as I was driving out. God was asking me, I asked myself, what if God wants this from me? What if God wants this sort of life from me? And so this question after that day, never left me. I might not have paid attention to it every day, but it never left me. And again, my story is one of continuous movement because my dad wasn't able to find a job in Canada, so we ended up moving to the U.S. And in the U.S., again, I ended up going to another Catholic school. And at this point in time, I was getting ready to graduate from high school. And so I went to I still had this question. I never told anybody. I told one good friend, but he was like, don't worry. You'll be able to get a girlfriend, don't worry. But he didn't really understand that it was really a question that I always had. What if God wants something like that for me? So when I was about to graduate, I went to and asked the priest, what do you think I should do? And he said, don't worry. If just go to university, study, and if this voice is true, then if it comes from God, it will not lead you. You will have to look at it, right? But you still have time. So I went to university, and so I went with that idea, right? To study, but also to see if this voice was true, if it continued, right? And in university, God gave me some new friends that, with them, I was able to verify what this voice might be asking me in my life. Just like we hear in the gospel today, right? The good shepherd, right? The sheep hear his voice. So just like Samuel, the prophet, right, hears the voice of God in the night. And of course, God's voice then becomes incarnate in Jesus. This voice also becomes flesh through the people we meet. And so for me, this voice became flesh through the friends that I made at university, who were also Catholic. They belonged to an Italian group, an Italian movement, and so I became friends with them. And very naturally, I started slowly but surely understanding that everything that I was living had to do with my faith. At the beginning, my first years of university, I would tell my friends from class, I'd be like, oh, Friday night I have my Catholic group. I have my church group. I wasn't even Catholic, I had my church group. And so my friends, okay, you can go to your church group, right? And so my church group was on Fridays. That was my Friday night activity, my church. All the other days, I was, maybe I'd go running one day, biking the other. I like sports. Anyways, maybe another day with friends from one of my classes, right? And at a certain point, one of these friends told me, have you ever thought about inviting anybody to come here? Some of your other friends, right? And it had never crossed my mind. My life was divided. I did my church activity on Fridays, Monday was this, Tuesday was that, so on and so forth. There was no unity to my life. And at that point, I remember my friend said, look, God wants you to. He wants you to live with your friends, live your studies with Him. And at that point is when I started really understanding how this voice that I had in my heart, right? If I wanted to live for Him, meant really living each day for Him. If I wanted to verify this, it meant trying to live every day to the fullest, asking Him to be with me. And so, of course, I was verifying also to see if this voice was true, right? Of going toward the priest. So I started going to Mass every day. I started praying a little bit more. But asking this question, right? The possibility is, does God really, is He really a part of everything I'm doing, right? Of my studies, of my friends who don't know Him. And the more that I lived with this question, the more that life became beautiful. The more that being with my economics, I studied economics and political science, being with my economics friends became interesting. Their questions kind of also became my questions, right? Knowing that Jesus was sending me there to be with them changed the way that I was with them, right? And of course, my Friday group was still my Friday group, but then I started inviting other people to it. And at some point, there were other people. I said, well, why don't we just start the group at university, right? And so then we started meeting at the university with some the new people that I had met. And so anyways, going towards sort of the end of my years of university, my last year of university was a beautiful year where I was loving what I was studying. I had these new friends that I had proposed to this group, right, to discuss our faith. And the first people that I had thought of inviting, they came once, and then they never came back. But because he was there, and I was like, okay, God, what do you want? Do you actually want this, right? And all these people ended up coming that I never expected, right? New friends that he was giving me. And at that point, I realized, wow, if this is what it means to live for God, to live this type of friendship, then I want this. If this is what living for God means. At the same time, I was talking about this question with a priest, right, with an Italian priest that I had met through these Italian friends. So, anyways, when I was going through this last year of university, I realized I want this forever, even if this means going to the other part of the world. I would have never imagined I was going to come to Taiwan. That was like the last thing I'd ever imagined, right? And who knows where God will take us still, right? But at that point, I was ready to ask to be admitted to seminary, right? And so when I asked the priest, the Italian priest, if I could enter the seminary, he said, "Why? Why do you want to enter seminary?" Right? And so of course I told him some of my life stories, of course, from when I was a kid, all these different signs that God had given me. They said, "Look, ultimately, I understand that this voice that is calling me, that is to live for Him, really has become flesh with these friends. And if it means giving my life for these friends, even if I have to leave to go somewhere else, it's for the same thing, to be able to share this friendship with other people." And at that point, I didn't really know that this group of priests was missionary. They were in the U.S. and other countries, but I didn't know they were in Taiwan. I had no idea where I'd be sent. But I said, I want to follow this friendship. And so I ended up going to the U.S. first and then to Italy. And then when I got to Italy, I said, "Oh, they'll probably want me to stay in Italy, right? Because I've been around so much." And then I was there for a couple of months, and then they said, "Well, do you want to go to Taiwan?" And so here I am, right? So I think for me, responding to the vocation really is sharing with other people the friendship that God has shared with me, that has become flesh, and that continues to share with me. This is what I look forward to every day here in Taiwan with the people I meet. And I have also found his flesh here, his friendship here. So I think that for us who have left our countries for different reasons, we find ourselves here, and God sends us. He sends us to share with others precisely what we have been fortunate to have experienced already. So this is also, I think, what He calls all of us, regardless of whether we're priests or sisters or husbands or wives or children or simply here for work. God wants us really to share what we've found with the people He gives us, with the friends that maybe we don't know. We actually that He's already prepared